Well, hey everybody, this is Tom Sidener, the Lonely Gamer, and I'm here today with one of my colleagues and friends, Kirk Yenerall, and we work together at the university. Kirk is a math professor in the math department, and I'm in computer science, and so we've actually merged together. Yes, so it's now math and computer science, so we are now in the same department as well, so that's kind of interesting. Kirk is a long-time goer of GenCon. And he's been there quite a few years. How many years have you been going there?
Oh, we've been going regularly since probably about 2013, the last 6 years. But my very first trip ever was when I was about 14 or 15 years old. I persuaded my father to take us from Pennsylvania out to, at the time it was...
in Geneva?
Well, it was in Kenosha, Parkside.
Okay.
And so as a teenager, it was a total blast. Shout out to Dad and Mom for renting the big Lincoln Town car and taking us all the way across to the Midwest, and so GenCon has always had a special place in my heart.
And I've gone to GenCon several times. I didn't go last year because of a job change, but I'm looking forward to getting back into GenCon this year. In fact, last year, during the weekend of GenCon, or the days of GenCon, I thought about it every day. Every day I thought, I wonder what's happening at GenCon, because I'm not there. So I'm really looking forward to going today. So kind of as a pre-list item, I want to say that I'm actually just looking forward to going back to GenCon because I missed it last year. So.
Absolutely.
So what me and Kirk are going to do today is we are going to do a list, a top 10 list of things that we're looking forward to at GenCon. Now this could be games that we're looking forward to, or actually it could be anything else. It could be things that we're looking forward to attending, or things that we're looking forward to seeing or doing, or anything like that. So it may not be all games. I think my list is a lot of games, but Kirk's may not be. So there was no stipulation that this had to be games. It just had to be something we're looking forward to at GenCon this year.
Overall, the experience.
So, top 10 things we are looking forward to at GenCon 2019. Okay? So, let's go ahead and get started, and let's go backwards on this, and we'll count down. And so we'll start with number 10, and I'm going to let you start with your number 10.
All right. So number 10 on my list is, one of the things I like best about GenCon is just the opportunity to try new board games. I play a lot of Dungeons & Dragons during the regular year. I play pretty much almost no Dungeons & Dragons at GenCon, so it's a wonderful opportunity to try new things. This year, one of the games that my family and I are going to be playing is a game called Life Siphon. We'll be playing that on Thursday. It's by Lay Waste Games. They make some wonderful board games. Their components are really top-notch. And with the last 2 years in a row, we've played a game from Lay Waste involving dragons, and where the dragons are trying to essentially establish their territory and take the most gold. And you play the dragons. Well, in the game that we're playing this year, which is brand new, just came out, it's underground. The humans have gone underground and they're cursed, and you're trying to be the last human to survive. And there's, from what I've seen, there's imps involved, there's liches involved, and you're trying to keep your life points. And I'm just looking forward to it because of the high quality of their components. So Lay Waste Games, if you get a chance, if you're going to GenCon, check out games from Lay Waste Games, including Life Siphon.
I'll have to check that out. I'll have to find out when you guys are playing and kind of swing by and take a look and watch how it's played, because that sounds pretty interesting. I'm not familiar with that game at all, so that's the great thing about GenCon. You can go there not knowing about a game, you come home, you're all stoked about the game. And so, do you know if the game you're going to demo, if they're going to have that for sale at GenCon, or is
it was on Kickstarter, so I'm fairly sure, I'm pretty sure they probably will have it.
All right, great. And I take it the Kickstarter probably has been given out to the Kickstarter backers.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, well, my number 10 is an activity that I'm going to be doing at GenCon, and it's the first year I'm going to get to do it, and I'm very excited about it, but I'm going to be doing the Trade Day Conference, which is for educators. I am an educator, and so is Kirk, and I am really interested in applying game theory to my classes. In fact, in my classes, I do a lot of things where I apply gaming, and I have, you know, them compete against each other. I find that competition in the classroom is a really great way to get students to excel. And so I'm going to be going to the teachers' conferences the day before Gen Con. It's actually on Wednesday, the day before, and I'm going to be learning some stuff about how to implement game theory and game things into my classroom. And I'm hoping that that will actually make me a better teacher. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've never done it before. Every year that I go, I'm like, oh, I should have done that. And this year I actually took the time to sign up early and get in there. Last time I went, which was 2 years ago, I was actually going to do it, and I signed up too late, and I missed the deadline for the Trade Day conference. It's called Trade Day because I think it also involves some, you know, retailers and stuff like that. But I know a lot of it is geared towards educators, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. Anything that we can do to actually make us better teachers actually is a benefit to us and our university and our students. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to, and that's my number 10. So
one of these days I'm going to get there too. The number 9 for me is something that I'm doing for the first time, but it's something that's been at Gen Con for a long, long time. And if you've gone to Gen Con before, you've seen this out in the hallways. Werewolf.
Oh, yeah.
Every year, even from when I was younger, and I remember visiting once in Milwaukee in the early 2000s. You're walking down the hallways and you see the large groups playing werewolf, and it's just something that I haven't had an opportunity to do yet. So this year on Thursday, my son Carter and I were going to be playing both Werewolf, which is run by Deceptively Social Games, and also a newer kind of a variant of Werewolf called Growl. And we're going to be playing those both later on Thursday evening. And so I think a lot of people would agree that, you know, part of the Gen Con experience is being a part of those things that are just there year to year, and that's just one we haven't had a chance to do yet. So
yeah, and one thing we might want to mention, if you're going to Gen Con and this is the first time you're going, the first time that I went, I did not understand how anything worked. But if you want to do stuff like this, like Kirk is talking about, like the Growl and the Werewolf, you do need to buy tickets for those things. Now, the tickets are pretty inexpensive. I think they're like $1 or $2. Do you remember?
Yeah, just a couple of dollars for a session.
I've had friends who've mentioned, well, why do they charge you a couple bucks for a game? But I can kind of understand. I think Gen Con wants people to show up to these things if you sign up for them, and if you pay a couple bucks for the ticket, you're more than likely to show up.
You got the commitment.
Right, and you're not just going to flake and blow it off and everything, because these games are fun if people show up and they participate, but it's not so much fun to play Werewolf by yourself, you know?
No, you need a big group.
Yeah.
And Deceptively Social Games, not only are they running Werewolf, but they're also running another game nearby that's called 2 Rooms and a Boom.
Oh, that sounds cool.
And they're both great social deduction games with groups of folks, and as Tom said, very inexpensive, just a couple of dollars for an hour of a lot of fun.
Yeah, and so if you're going and you've never been before, go on to Gen Con's website, search for what you want to do. There'll be times where you can sign up, and then I think right now it's just all paid digitally. And the new thing this year that I heard was they're actually going to scan your card. You don't have to actually carry tickets around, so you could actually buy tickets a day before the show, and those tickets will automatically go into your badge, and then they'll scan your badge, and you'll be into the stuff you want to do. But if you're new, just know that you need to buy tickets, buy them on their website, and have those so that you can go and do the things. You can sometimes just show up at things, and if people don't show up to play, they'll let you in, but that's hit or miss, and sometimes that's disappointing if you show up and you can't get in. So
yeah, generic tickets, you can get those for $2 each, and not a bad idea to have a small stash of those for, like as Tom said, if there's something you see that's going on there and you want to dive in, and they do happen to have an opening. If you have a generic or two, that's...
Yeah, and that's a good idea. So if you're hanging out with your buddy Kirk and he says, I'm going to go play Growl, and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to go with you and see if there's an opening, you know, so then you have that ticket already on your badge that you can get in, and you can kind of do that. So tickets are important. They're not as bad as it sounds. Just, you know, get on there, see what you want to do, pick up some tickets, and then you're good to go for Gen Con. So.
Yeah, there's still time.
Yep. All right, so my number 9, you did your number 9, right? My number 9 is Imhotep Duel. That is by, I forgot to write down the name of the game company. Okay, after a little research, I found out that it's Cosmos that does Imhotep Duel. I have Imhotep. My game group likes Imhotep. We don't get to play it a lot because it's a 4-player game. But my wife and I are also doing a lot of camping this year, and we're looking for games to take camping with us. And so I was kind of interested in Imhotep Duel because it's a 2-player game. It's something that we can play at the campground. It doesn't seem like it's got a lot of components that you have to have a big table for or anything. So I'm kind of interested in that. I like Imhotep the times that I've played it, so I'm kind of hoping that Imhotep Duel is in the same vein, and it's something that we can, me and my wife can play. My wife and I play a lot of games together, so it's nice to have 2-player games that we can actually pull out and play when it's just the 2 of us. So.
Very cool.
And that's my number 9, Imhotep Duel by Cosmos.
Number 8 for me is, as Tom said earlier, this is the general GenCon experience. So my number 8 is not a game. This year we're going to be staying at a hotel in Plainfield, Indiana, which is a suburb of Indianapolis, and did a little bit of research, and we found out that there is a historic diner there in Plainfield called the Oasis Diner, which is an original diner from the 1950s. It was closed down for a short bit and reopened during the last decade. And they have they're supposed to have some really wonderful food, butterscotch root beer.
Ooh, that's
pretty
good.
And very hearty diner portions. So my daughter and son and I are looking forward to experiencing Plainfield. We will arrive on Wednesday before GenCon starts on Thursday, and maybe take in. There's a water park there in Plainfield, so we're looking forward to the Oasis Diner and experiencing that. And one of the big parts for us for GenCon is always, okay, I'll admit it, the opportunities to have new food experiences.
Oh yeah, exactly.
At restaurants in Indianapolis, and so hopefully we'll be taking in a couple of new restaurants in downtown Indy too.
I will also be staying off campus, but I stay at the hotel of my brother-in-law who lives in Avon, Indiana.
Okay.
Kirk and I have kind of a little different way that we do GenCon. Kirk does it as a family affair, so him and his kids and his family all go. I go by myself. I'm the lonely gamer, of course, so that's what I do. My wife actually drives me to GenCon in the morning, drops me off, and then
are blessed.
And then picks
you
me
are
up.
Blessed.
I've even managed to get my wife to show up every once in a while just to load up games. So I'll buy stuff and she'll pull up at the door and I'll run out, throw the games in the trunk. She drives off, comes back and picks me up later. It's very nice because my brother-in-law, who's my wife's brother, lives in Avon, Indiana, so she goes and spends the time with her brother and gets to visit and everything, and I get to go to GenCon, the greatest 4 days in gaming. So I think it's a win-win for both of us. But that's another thing to note. If you guys are going to GenCon, there's no wrong way to go to GenCon. You can go by yourself, you can go with your family, go with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, go with whoever you game with, go with a game group.
Right.
My game group has gotten fairly big over the last few years, and so we've actually talked about going as a group sometime, just going as the full game group. So that's kind of cool as well. So however you are going to go, just go, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
That was your number...
Number 8, eating at the Oasis Diner in Plainfield.
All right. My number 8 is Clank Legacy by Renegade Games. Renegade Games is one of my favorite game studios. A few years ago, I just happened across their booth at GenCon, and they were selling a game called Clank that nobody had heard about. Nobody heard about it before GenCon. Renegade Games originally... had a lot to do with video games, and then they moved into the board game market. And Clank is a game that my wife and I both really love. We've kind of stayed in the genre of the original Clank, so there's Clank and then there's Clank in Space. And so we've gone the regular Clank road, so we have the regular Clank and all the expansions for regular Clank, but we don't have Clank in Space. But we love Clank, and so the Clank Legacy looks very interesting. We haven't played a lot of Legacy games. Maybe that's for the best because we don't really know what to expect, but Clank Legacy is a game that we are looking forward to playing, and because Clank is a game that we really love, we're hoping that Clank Legacy is something that we will love as well. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be able to get it at GenCon, because after people started learning about Renegade games, they became very popular. And 2 years ago when I was at GenCon, they had released their Clank in Space, and it sold out like immediately. So this may not be something I can get at GenCon, but at least I might be able to see it, kind of see what it's all about. How does it integrate a game that we actually like into a legacy game, and then kind of go from there and see if it's something that is worth pursuing. So
that sounds outstanding. So, have you played any kind of legacy games? I've always wanted to do that. I have not. I haven't done Risk Legacy or any of the other.
Well, I haven't played the big name legacies, but I played the ship legacy. I can't remember what the name of it. Remember they came out with the legacy game about 5 years ago, and it was about boats and you were exploring. I can't remember. Somebody in the comments put the name of that in the comments, but I played that and I didn't like it. And we also played the game Cornerstone. We liked Cornerstone pretty well, but after we played it a couple times, we just ended up flipping the board over, sticking all the stickers on. We actually, somebody online had recommended this is the way you should stick the stickers on to make a balanced game. We stuck all the stickers on the board, and now we play it all the time. It's just a worker placement game. Because we kind of, for us, and I don't know if Clank Legacy is going to be this way, but for us, it's really hard for us to get people to commit to the same game over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Now, I will say one thing about Cornerstone. We actually played Cornerstone several times as Legacy, I think 5 or 6, with my mother-in-law, who actually passed away during the playing of the game. And so at that point, we stopped playing it too. But the cool thing is when we go back and we play the game, we have all kinds of cards and stuff that she wrote on, and she, put her name on and had like name things. And so that game actually has a lot of sentimental value for us as well, because it was a game that we played with her before she passed away. And so that's kind of cool too. So the Legacy game kind of have an unintended, aspect where it actually became kind of a memorial to my mother-in-law because she played that game with us. So anyway,
that's really neat.
That's all the experience we have with legacy games, and that's about it. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how this works and how it plays. So
sounds cool. I think that's a lot of what GenCon is about too, trying new things and experiencing it.
Yep. So
my number 7 is not a game that I'll be playing at GenCon, but it's one that I hope to be purchasing at GenCon. And I'm sure a lot of folks out there during the last year have been part of role-playing gamers. Many role-playing gamers have been part of the Pathfinder 2 playtest during this last year. And with our games club at Lincoln Land, we had I ran a couple of sessions of the Doomsday Dawn playtest and started to understand the playtest rules, and they'll be debuting the player's handbook for Pathfinder 2 there. So I'm hoping to pick up player's handbook for Pathfinder 2 while I'm there, and I'm sure that's going to be a big thing. I know that Paizo has just huge numbers of tables and folks that are playing Pathfinder 2 up in the Sagamore Ballroom. If I could give some recommendations to Paizo, right now most of their slots are 5-hour slots, and for a family to commit to a 5-hour slot is sometimes difficult for a mom or a dad if you've got younger kids. I want to just putting a recommendation out there to Paizo, a plug for some shorter game sessions, maybe 2 or 3 hour game sessions. I would be right there on that Pathfinder session if you had a 2 or 3 hour session. But as it stands right now, I'm not going to be playing it at the convention, but I am very much looking forward to picking up the Player's Handbook. It looks like a neat system, and I play a lot of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, so it'll be interesting to see the differences in how they play.
Yeah, 5 hours is a huge commitment.
Yeah,
even for somebody like me, I think about it like that's a big span of your day, right? Yeah. So that's some dedication right there. But if you're a big player of Pathfinder, it gives you a long.
Absolutely.
I mean, if that's what you want to do for most of your time, then sign up for several 5 hours and knock it out of the park. But you're right. That is a big, commitment. I actually had a small game store at one time, and I went to some trade conventions, and I know they can do Pathfinder in an hour because we did it. We did like small things in an hour through the trades where they only really had you for an hour, so they just kind of kept it down to that. So, but they're probably trying to do some character progression and stuff like that, which takes some time. One thing I have to say about Paizo is they do amazing stuff in their manuals.
The color. I've seen some of the previews of the color. The layout of the second edition Player's Handbook looks just the little bits and pieces they put up look magnificent.
Yeah, the way they kind of color code the graphs where they've got like colors that kind of split the lines and everything, make it really easy to read. They use a lot of color coding in their this is important, this is medium important, all that stuff. They really do their manuals are phenomenal. Even their original manuals that they put out I know they didn't call it 3.5, but I guess it was 1, right?
The first Pathfinder.
Yeah, the first Pathfinder. All of us just called it 3.5. And then now they have 2, which is really confusing, right? So that's the way it goes. But they do amazing work on their books, and that's going to be amazing to see.
Yeah, they put a lot of work into it over the course of a whole year, a huge play test, and I'm very intrigued to see what comes out of it. So number 7 is picking up the Pathfinder 2 Player's Handbook.
My number 7 is another game. It's a small game. It's called Little Town, and it's by ILO. And it's a 4-player game, so I kind of want to see it and see how it plays before I commit to it. The problem is my game group has gotten so big that normally we have 6 to 8 players that show up at the game group, and so it's so hard to get 4-player games to the table. In fact, last week when we had a game night, a bunch of people were out because of vacations and everything, and we only had 4 players. And it was actually super nice to be able to play some of these 4-player games that we never get to play. I mean, we played Tyrants of the Underdark, which is one of my very favorite games. I mean, I love that game. And I wish they'd come out with an expansion that would actually expand that to 6 players, just add another board and some players. But 4 players is all it has, and we played that. It was so much fun because we only had 4 players there. But Little Town looks very cool. It's you're building a town. You have to work together to build a town, and you actually can. It's a worker placement, but you can actually put your worker where you're sucking resources out of other people's towns. So when they build the town, you can actually put a worker to actually get the resources that their town produces to actually produce other things. You do have to pay them for the resources that you get for them, but you are able to get resources that you were not producing. It kind of reminds me a little bit of 7 Wonders, where the people on your left and your right produce resources and you can kind of purchase those. My wife hates to play 7 Wonders with me because I never put out any resources. I just suck off of the people on my left and right, and my wife gets...
You're the moocher.
Yeah, I'm the moocher. I pay for them, so I guess I'm not mooching too much, but my wife gets so angry. She's like, you never put out resources. I'm not playing this game with you. But anyway, Tiny Town looks like a very interesting... You're building a town. You have a community board, and then you have all these different locations that you can create and resources that you can create, and then you use those resources to create more. It's kind of like an engine, a worker placement engine, and it looks pretty interesting. Sometimes these 4-player games I just can't resist if they're good enough, but I have to just know in the back of my mind they're not going to get played that often because of the size of my game group. So anyway, but that's my 7, Little Town by ILO Games, 4-player game.
My number 6 is part of the GenCon experience, not a game. We will be getting back to games soon. Number 6 is another big part of GenCon. If this is your first time going, you will be wowed by the different entertainment that's available at GenCon. A big part is strolling musical acts and great quality music that they provide for free just for being part of the convention. But you can buy tickets to special events. And this year we're going to do one that we haven't done before. A fellow family here in Springfield that we do gaming with here in town. They've gone for several years to the Gamers Live on Friday evening. It's an improv performance, fantasy role-playing related, where the folks who are from the Gamers movies, if you're familiar with those, They come on and they make up an adventure on the spot with suggestions from the audience. Those with premier seating down in front are called upon to be extras in the course of the what's going on. But it's my friends Jennifer and Matt, shout out to them. Jennifer and Matt tell me that it's just a very fun comedic performance. And so Friday evening this year, my son and I are going to go see the Gamers live and enjoy that entertainment. So looking forward to seeing that.
That's pretty cool. You know, one of the ones that I recommend if you're getting tickets or stuff is the Dice Tower Live. Mm-hmm. They do a really good show. I like to go to that. And then, like you said, if you're just walking around, you'll see all kinds of entertainment. They got people doing skits, comedy. They have like a comedy troupe that walks around the convention, does skits, music. I've seen a lot of music going on there. And then one of the things don't miss, and I hope this is not on your list and I'm going to mess up your list, but don't miss the cosplay stuff. On Sunday, they usually have a cosplay parade. And
Saturday.
It's a Saturday. Okay, Saturday
afternoon.
Saturday they have the cosplay parade, and it's amazing. I saw a guy in like a 7-foot Sauron outfit one time. I couldn't believe it. Like, he's 7 foot tall. He must have been wearing stilts or something. And it's like this huge. His helmet had to be 4 feet tall. I mean, it was just amazing. So like some of the things.
But yeah, the costuming is incredible, and if you're enjoying it there for the first time, you're going to be really treated to a lot of folks who go to some really great lengths with their costumes.
It's amazing.
And they have places where you can get your pictures taken, set aside for the ones that want to have pictures taken with them. So. And
even the people that do the cosplay, they're really nice. And as long as you're friendly with them, you can go up and ask them, hey, can I take a picture with you? And they'll let you take a picture with them and all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, it is super
There's a lot of
impressive.
There's a lot of creativity.
I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I'm talking, these are costumes that look like you're watching something in a movie. You know, it's not like something I would make.
There are some very professional cosplayers there.
Yeah, so. Very professional. So very, very good. So is that your 6?
So number 6 is seeing the Gamers Live improv comedy on Friday night. There are still seats open, or there were still seats open for general admission a couple of days ago.
You can tell Kirk is a good professor because he repeats himself. At the beginning, he says it at the beginning, he says it at the end. All right, so my number 6 is another game. I think most of the rest of mine are games, so I kind of enjoy the game, so that's kind of the thing I like. But my number 6 is Terror Below. That's by Renegade Games as well, so surprise, surprise. This is a game that when I saw it, I was like, it's Tremors. You know, Tremors was a movie that I loved when I was in high school. Kind of showing my age now. Don't go back and look at the year that came out, please. But I like Tremors, and so this game is based on that Tremors model where you're kind of running around and these big giant worms are coming up out of the ground and attacking you. Actually, WORM stands for something, but I don't remember what it is. So if you guys remember what it is, can you put it in the comments below? It stands for War Machines or some kind of war thing for the worms. But you're running around and you're trying to collect the worm eggs, and you're taking the worm eggs back to different locations for victory points. The worms are coming up and attacking you, and they can kill off your characters, and your characters all have special abilities. So if you lose a character, then you have to switch to another character. I think there's a hospital where you can revive your characters, and then there's bounties, and there's victory points for delivering certain eggs to certain places and killing certain worms. So there's a lot going on, but the emphasis of the game is the big old worms running around. You're trying to track them on the board. They have like a little counter on the board that moves around, and then at some point they pop up out of the ground. And so you're trying to kind of get close to them, but not too close where they destroy you when they come up, and then they throw rubble all over the place when they come up that you have to clear off the board. And so it's a pretty intricate game.
Yeah, that sounds involved.
But it seems cool. It's got the big stand-up worms like King of Tokyo, you know, so that's kind of a nice aesthetic when you're running around on the board. And so, yeah, really nice looking game, very thematic to the Tremors movie. I know it's not called Tremors, but you know, it's pretty much Tremors. A few years ago, they did a dinosaur game, and it was pretty much Jurassic Park without the Jurassic Park name. So this is Tremors without the Tremors name. But it's actually called The Terror Below, and that's by Renegade Games. And that is a 5-player game, and that's one of the ones I am going to be looking at GenCon. And I'd actually like to play it at GenCon if possible. So.
Very good. Number 5 for me are back to games. And as I said, I play a lot of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons during the year. But while I'm there, if I do play RPGs at GenCon, I like to mix it up a little bit. And a couple years ago, we played a really wonderful game with my son and daughter. I had never played Savage Worlds before.
I've heard of Savage Worlds, yeah.
And it was my first time playing it, and just had a blast with a one-shot there for a few hours. This year on Sunday, our last event, I'm going to be trying out an RPG called the Ubiquity System. I've never played it before, but the theme of the adventure that we're doing is we are supervillains. And cool. There's a league of superheroes, and it's our job to squash the superheroes.
That's interesting.
Ubiquity, it says it's a dice pool system where as long as you have dice with the same number of odd and even numbers on them, you can theoretically use any dice that you might have. I'm intrigued to learn about how the system works and to play a new role-playing game with my family, and just to that's part of, for me, that's a big part of what Gen Con is about. Is trying something new, being exposed to it, and learning some new things. So.
Oh yeah, there's been so many things that I didn't know about, went to Gen Con, and now I'm a fanatic about, because you see these things and they're like, that's really awesome, and then you come and you learn more about it and you start playing, and then before you know it, you're addicted to it. So I know you're I'm more of a board gamer, and Kirk is probably more of a role player. I know he plays a lot of board games, but I think his emphasis is probably more on role-playing definitely than me. One of the role-playing games you might want to check out is Through the Breach. Okay. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but Weird puts it out, and it's set in the Malifaux universe, and it's a steampunk Western role-playing game, and it's played with cards, and it's really amazing. The way the cards work is that you get a hand of cards, and then when you do something in the game, you flip a card, and then the cards in your hand you can use to cheat fate. But you have a limited number of cards in your hand, so once you run out of cards in your hand, then fate is,
rules everything.
Rules everything, and so you got to be really, cautious about how you use your cards and don't waste them and everything. And it's a really amazing game. I've tried to get a campaign going of it before because I'm a big, huge Malifaux fan, but I haven't. But I played a couple one-shots, and I really, really enjoy playing it. I love the card interaction and how the cards play. And the GM is not allowed to touch the cards because it would mess up fate. So he can never touch it. In fact, if the GM actually touches the card for some reason, you get to draw a new hand of fate cards. So
there's no dice fudging.
No dice fudging.
No.
Yeah.
So that's called Into the Breach.
Yeah, Through the Breach.
Through the Breach.
Through the Breach. Yes. Okay, so you did your number 5, and I'm going to do my number 5. Did you get a chance to say your number 5 again?
Well, once again, it's playing the Ubiquity RPG on Sunday, trying out a new role-playing game.
Awesome. Okay, so my number 5 is Gorius Maximus. Have you ever heard of that one?
I saw it listed under the events, but I can't remember what it was about.
So it's a trick-taking game based on Roman gladiators. And my favorite part about it is just the fact that the cards are just ridiculously gory. Just blood and body parts and things all over the place.
It is Maximus.
It is Maximus. So I'm a huge fan of Spartacus. I love the show Spartacus. It was one of my favorite TV series. And this looks right down the same vein as Spartacus, with lots of blood and gore and things getting, chopped off and everything. And so I'm kind of interested in this. We play a lot of trick-taking games, and so we like those type of games. And this has some cool trump stuff with it, where you can actually, as the last player, you can actually change the trump right at the last minute and take the trick, even if you've got a small number and stuff. So looks like it's got some pretty good mechanics. It also has some mechanics that you can throw off. If you're the last player, you can throw off negative points So then the person who takes the trick has to take your negative points, stuff like that. So
devious.
it looks pretty good. It looks like not a straightforward trump taking game where you know, like, hey, I got this, I got this, I got this, and you just start running trump. But it looks like something that you can actually get in trouble if you start taking too many tricks, and there's things that people can do to kind of counteract your constant trump taking. So I'm kind of interested in that. It looks really good. I like the visuals for it. And so that one is Gorius Maximus by Inside Up. And another nice thing about this, it's an 8-player game.
Oh, wow.
So
that'd be good for your game
good
group.
for our game group. It's a nice big game that we can play where everybody can kind of get involved. So, and that's my number 5.
Yeah, there's a lot of great card games at Gen Con. You were mentioning trick-taking games. We're playing a game on Saturday called Trumps and Ladders, which has got a political overtones to it there. But that's a trick-taking game, and also Bicycle. I think I brought a couple of props here today, but you all know Bicycle.
Yes.
And their biggest card making company, but they're coming out with some newer card games, and I'm sneaking one in here because this is not actually on my list, but since you mentioned card games, Bicycle has several new card games that they're come out with this year, and they're showing at Gen Con. But we're playing one of Bicycle's games on Friday morning, and we're looking forward to that.
And I noticed you've got the breast cancer bicycle cards as well. So
they're good. Gen Con, if you're into charity, this is one of my honorable mentions. It's not officially in my top 10 list, but one of the great things about Gen Con is gamers are generous people. And one of the things you're going to find out for the first time or find out more is there's lots of charity opportunities there at Gen Con. Lots of ways to do good things for society. And whether it's the card holla, massive card sculptures that they build and knock down on Saturday evening, lots of good opportunities to be part of doing good while you're there as well.
Get involved. So, if you can, get involved. If you have the means, get involved, help others. So it's a good way to live your life. Okay.
So number 4, now we're back to the official list.
Okay.
So your number 5 was Gorius Maximus.
Yes.
Number 4 is, back to games, on Saturday I'm going to be playing Axis and Allies 1941 with my son Carter.
Yeah.
And this year Carter's been more interested in Risk and wargaming, and it harkened back to a time in my life when I was about his age, when I was very into Risk, and we made up our own countries and made our own versions of Risk, and he's been doing that with his friends this year, creating their own war games with imaginary countries. And I remember playing Axis and Allies a little bit during my Risk days. I really haven't played it a lot in the last decade or so, but I have a feeling Carter will really enjoy Axis and Allies, and 1941 is a beginner's game for it. And so it'll be good for him to be introduced, and it'll be good for me to be reintroduced to the mechanics of how Axis and Allies works. So I'm looking forward to, it's S'more Swamp is the gaming group at Gen Con that runs a lot of Axis and Allies, and we'll be playing in one of their Axis and Allies games on Saturday afternoon. So
I should sign up and play that, because believe it or not, I have never played Axis and Allies.
It's been a long time, so I'm looking forward to being reintroduced, and I think they still have a few slots in some of their sessions that are open. If you check it out, S'more Swamp, they've got a lot of different versions of Axis and Allies and other games that they offer at Gen Con.
I do know that Axis and Allies came out with an anniversary version, I think, about a year ago.
They may have. Do they have a legacy? There's Risk Legacy.
I don't think there's an Axis and Allies legacy, but they came out with an anniversary edition that's supposed to be really beautiful. Like, they redid a bunch of the components for it, and it looked really nice. I saw it on the shelf. I played a lot of Risk when I was a kid. We used to play Risk over days.
Yes.
And then what would happen is we would leave the board, and then my friend Troy's mom would come in and clean his room, and then she'd pick up on the board. And so we'd be like, okay, well, we have no idea.
Got to start again.
Start over. So we started Risk a lot. We didn't finish Risk a lot.
That was also our experience. And it got worse because we expanded, because you have to take a game that you can't finish and make it even bigger.
Yeah, bigger, yeah. Exactly.
So Axis and Allies 1941 with S'more Swamp. looking forward to that.
That's your number 4, right?
Number 4.
My number 4 is Roll for Adventure. Have you seen this one? It's a dice game, but it's an adventure dice game, and the way it works is you've got this board that's cut into 4 pie slices, and each pie slice has a specific way that you have to complete it. Like one of the ones I saw where you had to break through these walls to get to the castle. Or one of them you had some minions you had to kill, and stuff like that. And so you're rolling dice, and you're using your dice duplicates to do these things. So this board here might say that you need all 3s to break through this wall. So you roll, and if you've got 3 3s, you can use all 3 3s to try to get through the wall. All the time, you also have minions that are coming up around the thing. So it's kind of like got kind of a Castle Panic type vibe.
Okay.
And you have to use your dice to remove those, to extinguish them. And you're trying to get these gems, and you're trying to get so many gems before the Shadow Lord comes out and destroys the land. And the Shadow Lord comes out of the deck every once in a while, and when he does, he causes havoc, and then he gets shuffled back into the deck. So it is a cooperative game. It's a I don't know what it is, but I love dice rolling, But I want to preface that with I don't like dice rolling in RPGs because I'm a terrible dice roller. I actually rolled 3 1s in a row in a Dungeons and Dragons game and managed to shoot 3 of my fellow adventurers in the back 3 times. So like dice hate me, but I like dice rolling games. I don't know why.
Well,
and if dice hate you, I highly recommend a they have a role-playing game and a card adventure game called Aventuria. Ulysses Spiel has the Dark Eye series, and roll 1s are good. So a critical hit is a 1. So if dice hate you, play those games because that's your game. So they just inverted it. So it's wonderful. I love it. I actually do very well at those games. So, but anyway, my number 4 is Roll for Adventure by Cosmos, and that's another 4-player game. But I'm hoping to play that one 2-player with my wife. So, all right.
Number 3 for me is the specific game that this is associated with is called Extraordinary Adventures Pirates, which is made by Forbidden Games. We're going to be playing it. It's one of our very first games on Thursday morning. One of the reasons why I'm looking forward to it is not only is it a brand new game that's coming out, but also this is one of those events at GenCon that is play to win. Some of the events that you'll have, game companies are promoting their new games, and so you have an opportunity, if you do especially well at the game, to actually take home a copy for free essentially for the price of your ticket.
Yeah, that's amazing.
If you can do well enough. And so Extraordinary Adventures Pirates is a kind of a racing game set in the Caribbean, and each player, as far as I understand it, has several ships that you're trying to get to your destination, and you're trying to get there faster than the other players. But along the way, you're pirates, and so there's opportunities to do what pirates do, to plunder and do those things. And I assume there's benefits from stopping and doing those things that can help you in the long run, but along the way you're stopping to do those things. So I think there's the issue of the trade-off.
Yeah, it kind of slows you down in the race, right? When you stop.
So are you going to take the chance that this is going to benefit you more? So there's risk involved, and so my son and daughter and I will be playing Extraordinary Adventures Pirates by Forbidden Games on Thursday mornings. Brand new game. We'll be checking that out, and with a chance to win the game.
And if you go to GenCon like Kirk does, just have your whole family play the game, and your odds of winning a copy are much elevated.
You have picked up on our strategy. Yeah. This does not always work to our benefit, but last year, this is a game Tom's familiar with because we played it at Games Club.
That's a good game.
Lincoln Land. King of the Jungle. This is a shout out, and this was from OMG Games. But this is a wonderful, quick-playing card game of deduction. I've got it upside down. Wonderful card-playing game of deduction.
Plays well both ways, right side up or upside down.
But my son and daughter played this in a play-to-win last year, and my son was crafty and won the game. But you picked up on our family.
Yeah, you
strategy.
do have to be crafty at this game too.
if you're going with your family or friends, you can increase your chance of winning the game in that way. I will confess that is one of our tactics.
Now, this brings up a really good point about Gen Con. There's a lot of wonderful things that go along with Gen Con, but one of the wonderful things that goes along with Gen Con is the ability for independent publishers to bring their games and show them off to people, because there's a lot of big companies. There's the Cool Mini or Knots and the Fantasy Flights and the AEGs and all these companies that are big and well known, but I have played so many independent games at Gen Con and thought, this is a great game. And it's a guy doing it out of his garage.
Right. And you're going to get the opportunity to probably meet one of the creators of the game in the process.
Oh yeah, and they're so not like, if you buy a copy from them, they'll sign your copies. I actually have a copy of a game that the designer signed the box, and then the artist actually signed a bunch of the cards in the game. So like it's just a wonderful experience to get to meet these guys. And the thing is, they are passionate about their games, right? They work on these games, they spend a lot of time on these games, and they're very passionate about these games. One of my favorite games that I still love to play is called Dungeon Dwellers. It was an independent game that a guy did, and every Gen Con that I've gone, I see this guy, and he usually has another character that you can add to the game. So, this is an honorable mention, but I'm actually looking forward to seeing the guy at Gen Con and hopefully picking up another deck of cards for another another figure in the game. So yeah, it's a wonderful way to see these independent developers and get to know them and get to see what they're passionate about and get to see their games, and it's just amazing. It's amazing that people, I mean, these are normal people that are like, have regular lives like us, and they're spending a lot of their time, creating these games so that we can play them. So that's pretty darn cool.
Absolutely.
All right.
And just a brief piggyback off of that in terms of the newer games. If you're very into being a part of the development of a game, Gen Con every year has a special room set aside for, it's called First Exposure Play
Testing. Yep.
And I believe the tickets are totally free. We did it last year. We helped with, we play tested a game involving bees and the collection of honey. But it's a wonderful way you can see a game right as it's developing and give the creators feedback about it. So that's a really exciting thing to be part of that process.
Yeah, we did that too, and it was a really cool process because you got to, like you said, give feedback, and you got to say what you liked about the game, what you didn't like about the game, and if the game comes out someday, what you said may be an integral part in what, the direction of the game, So it's really cool, and we, like I said, we did that too, and we loved it.
It was neat.
Yeah, it was really cool. So, all right, so I think we're down to number 3 for me.
Number 3.
Okay, so number 3 for me is Draftosaurus. Have you seen this one?
I have not.
So Draftosaurus is by Ankama Games. It's a 5-player game, and you are drafting dinosaurs. So each person has a board, and your board has pins for dinosaurs, and they're different. So like this pin might say you have to have 2 of the same type of dinosaur, or this one might say you have to have different dinosaurs, or this one says they all have to be the same. And then I think there's a river where you can throw dinosaurs that you can't classify in different areas. And so what you're doing is you're reaching into a bag, you're drawing out 6 dinosaur meeples, and then you're picking one, and then you're drafting them. So you're drafting around the table, trying to fill up your little theme park thing with dinosaurs and meeting the criteria. When you meet the criteria, you get victory points for meeting the criteria, and then whoever has, of course, the most victory points at the end wins. I actually thought about you, Kirk, when I saw this game, because I know you have kids, and I thought this would be a really fun game for Kirk and his kids, because it's a lot of tactile, grabbing the dinosaurs, pulling them out, looking at them, seeing what they are, and then sending around the table and stuff like that. So it looks like a really fun game. It's not a high-end, game by any means. It's not going to take. It's probably going to be like a 30-minute game or something like that, maybe even 15-minute. But it looks really fun, really fast. A good game to play in the middle of another game, and it's very colorful and tactile. And sometimes I just like games like that where I can really kind of get my hands into it and play the game. So number 3 for me is Draftosaurus by Ankama Games, and that's a 5-player game. So, or Ankama Games, I think is how you pronounce it.
Number 2, we're getting down.
We are.
Get down to the top. Number 2 is this year. We're continuing a tradition that we've done for a couple of years now, but expanding it a little bit. One of the cool things about GenCon is they have escape rooms. And about 3 years ago, my son and I did one for the first time. And the first one that we did, I believe, was one of the groups that we're doing again this year. It's a group out of Champaign-Urbana here in Illinois, CU Adventures in Time and Space. We did one of theirs, I believe it was several years ago, where there was a secret kind of Cthulhu shrine hidden that we had to break into. This year we're doing one of CU Adventures Time and Space escape rooms in the JW Marriott. It's called Into the Dragon's Lair. It's actually a sequence of 4 rooms with a puzzle in each room that you're going through over the course of an hour and a half. And you and your comrades have to solve the puzzles and think logically and try to defeat the challenges in each of the 4 subsequent rooms of a dragon's lair. So looking forward to that fantasy-themed escape room. And then also, this year for the first time, we're actually doing 2 escape rooms. And the second one that we're doing is a wonderful company there in Indianapolis. They're right above the spaghetti factory. It's called Escape Room USA. Not too far, just a couple of blocks from down Georgia Street from the convention center above the spaghetti factory. They always sponsor a number of games. They've got escape rooms that they're doing all year round, but during GenCon, they put their games on the GenCon event list. And so we're doing one on Saturday morning with them. That's an art gallery themed one. The Mona Lisa has been going around the world on a tour, and it's stopped in Indianapolis, and you and your fellow other 7 members of your team have been hired to steal the Mona Lisa.
Oh, wow.
And
that's interesting.
So you've got to find the way to break in to the vault where the Mona Lisa is by solving the puzzles in an hour. And Carter and I, we've been very lucky the last several years because every group that we've gone with so far, knock on wood, has solved the puzzle. And every year I'm amazed at how brilliant the people are that are in the group that I'm with.
Yeah.
Every year I finish, we finish and I think, wow, I'm really lucky I got such a great group of people.
Yeah.
Escape rooms are a wonderful challenge. A great way to test your mind and just if you love solving puzzles. And for me, RPGs, I've always loved puzzle solving as part of D&D, etc. And so we're looking forward to the Art Gallery Escape Room at Escape Room USA and the Into the Dragon's Lair Escape Room by CU Adventures Time and Space. I'm pretty sure that if you're interested in these, I'm pretty sure that the Into the Dragon's Lair is pretty well sold out. That sold out very, very quick at the beginning of when people were doing event registration. But I'm pretty sure that Escape Room USA still does have some spaces available for some of their escape rooms, and they run them all throughout the convention. And my son tells me, he said, "That's the good one, Dad."
Yeah.
So,
and kids know.
I would highly recommend that experience, and we're really looking forward to the challenge of a couple of escape rooms again this year.
That brings up a good point, too, that we probably should mention for people who haven't gone to Gen Con. This might be their first time. But Gen Con is not just in the convention center. It says the convention center, but that thing sprawls out over the entire downtown Indianapolis. You'll have stuff in hotels. You'll have stuff in businesses. And one of the things to note that most of Indianapolis is connected underground with tunnels. So if the weather's not great, if it's raining or something like that, look for the tunnels underground, and a lot of times you can get to all the other buildings. I know that the Marriott, the Marriott goes overhead, but some of the other hotels go underground. You can get to Lucas Oil Stadium underneath.
Absolutely.
And so there's a lot of ways to get to these things. If you're there in the evening and you're a little nervous about being out there, on your own, then you can always go underground and stuff like that. So there's a lot of ways to get to these places. If you just ask people, there's actually convention people all over the place. And they usually have shirts on that you can tell that they're convention people. If you ask them, like, how do I get to this location? They're going to tell you, and they're going to tell you the easiest and the safest way to get there. So, okay, so my number 2 is a company that I hadn't heard of before, but I saw their game, and it looked really, really cool. And it's called Skull Tales Full Sail. And it's by a company called Eclipse Editorial, and it is a RPG in a box, kind of like a Descent type thing, but you are pirates. So you play pirates, and your RPG is actually pirate themed, and you're doing pirate things, and you're sailing pirate boats, and you're pillaging and doing all the things that pirates do. So
Adventures on the High Seas.
Adventure on the High Seas. And so it looked really cool. It's got some miniatures. I kind of get drawn into the miniatures games, and so this one looks really cool. This is probably the most expensive game that I'm interested on my list this year. There's been times in the past where very expensive games I was interested in at GenCon, but this year most of my games are lower end games, but this one I'm not sure how much it is, but I'm thinking with all the miniatures and everything, it's probably one of the higher end ones. But it looks really cool. I like RPGs in a box, so like Descent and some of the other RPGs in a box like that. I like those, and so I'm kind of interested in this. I like the pirate theme, and so I'm thinking that this might be something I'm interested in. I don't know a whole lot about it other than I've seen the packaging. I've seen pictures and seen a little bit about it, so I really want to find out more about this game and see what it entails and how it works and everything. I saw some D6s in the pictures, so I'm thinking it uses some kind of a D6 rolling mechanism, so it'll be interesting to see. So that's my number 2, Skull Tales Full Sail. So, okay, drum roll.
Getting down there to
for number 1. Yes.
Can I give an honorable mention?
Yes, you can give as many honorable mentions.
Okay, I've got one more honorable mention because we haven't mentioned too much the exhibit hall already.
Yes.
And I'm going to mention one of my honorable mentions is specifically at the exhibit hall, the Exploding Kittens booth.
Oh yeah.
The last couple of years, the Exploding Kittens booth, not only of course can you buy the game Exploding Kittens there, but they have just these zany things. You bring $1 and you go up and you push the button.
Yeah, I know.
And people walk away with watermelons and fly swatter. Well, all kinds of crazy.
They have this fake vending machine.
Yes.
Yeah, and you take it up and you shove $1 in there, and somebody's inside there, and they'll just throw something out the bottom, it's just insane.
And while they're putting your thing together, they put a little pinwheel up, and they spin the pinwheel, and it rotates like a computer app. And
it's insane.
But I'm really hoping, I can't guarantee that they're going to do it again this year, but Exploding Kittens people, I really hope you have the same booth again this year because it's a ton of fun.
It was awesome.
It's a ton of fun for us, and I'm hoping to partake of your booth again this year.
The thing is, you'll know about the booth before you see it because there's a huge crowd, and you're like, what is everybody laughing about? And everybody's laughing. They're standing around. You got to kind of shove your way up there to get in there to see what's going on. But it's just like it's a riot, and people are just like crowded around the booth. It is an amazing thing, and I know exactly what you're talking about because I sit there and watch it for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. It's just fun, even if you're not buying something, just to watch it for a little bit.
Just to watch the people walk up there and throw their money in, and then they just shove things out like a bowling ball, like boom. I think they go to rummage sales and find weird stuff, and they just throw it out of the vending machine. It's
very, very, very creative.
It is very creative,
and the exhibit hall in general, you're going to find lots of great things there, lots of opportunities to play test games there for free. Sit down and get a short version of a game. So
it is crowded though.
It is.
At least it has been the last few.
Yeah.
The first couple of years I went, it wasn't so bad, but when I went on the 50th anniversary. Oh, it was insane.
Crazy.
Like you could hardly move in that. Now here's another thing. If you're going for the first time, if there's something you really want, you're going to have to line up at the door when it opens. Usually the doors open at 9, I think, right? If there's something you really want, you're going to have to line up and try to get in there and get to it. But if there's nothing that you really want, give it about an hour before you go in there, and then it's so much easier to move around, and because people are just rushing and trying to get to things that they want to get. And if you don't really care about that, just go in a little later, kind of, then you'll get a chance to wander around, see what you want, because it is very crowded. Last year, now I heard last year, did you go last year?
We were there. Yeah.
Okay, so I heard last year that they moved a bunch of stuff over to Lucas Oil Stadium.
There are some additional vendors over there.
And so I think they kind of tried to alleviate some of the traffic.
They also expanded the exhibit hall into some of the area where some of the card games had been.
Okay,
before. So they, but even with that, it is. Tom's certainly right. It's can be extremely congested at times.
Yes,
so.
And if you have kids with you or your big packages or something, it's gonna, you kind of want to just kind of keep things close to you as possible, because you are maneuvering through a bunch of people there. So.
And be courteous when you're in the exhibit hall.
But it is well worth it. The exhibit hall is my favorite part of the whole show, because I go there and I'll show up at a thing and say, "Can I play your game?" Yeah, and I'll sit down and just play the games with them. So anyway, okay, so
we digress.
Let's go to our number one thing for Gen Con. So you go first.
All right. So I'm going to plug a game company because they're one of our very favorite family favorites at Gen Con, and this is one of their games, Smirk and Dagger Games.
Oh yeah.
And this is their game Nevermore.
Critical Miss.
Which my daughter has played a few years ago. But we will be playing at least 3 games from Smirk and Dagger this year. And so my number one is, I'm going to just call it generally playing games from Smirk and Dagger, because they're a very fun game company, some high quality, high fun games. On Thursday, my son and daughter are playing a life-sized version of their newer game, Tower of Madness. And this is a version, it's a 6-foot tall tower that's out by the escalators, and a life-sized version of their board game that they're doing. And Carter and Allison will be playing that on Thursday, and I'm looking forward to watching that and seeing what that's about. That's kind of a Cthulhu themed thing, where in the board game version, you're pulling tentacles out of a tower.
I know what game you're talking about.
And marbles are dropping down. And this is apparently a life-sized version, so it'll be interesting to see
beach balls or something.
Well, yeah, I'm guessing they must be having beach balls or something larger to serve as the marbles. And we've never played it before, because that game has only been out for, I think, a little over a year altogether. But it's a life-size version, and those are a ton of fun to play. So that's going to be on Thursday, Smirk and Dagger, Enormous Tower of Madness. And then on Saturday night, Smirk and Dagger always has a big game. And we've been doing this for several years now. And I'm going to show off something that my daughter made for us last year. So we've been doing it for a few years, so my daughter made t-shirts for us last year. And so Smirk and Dagger has a game that's called Run for Your Life Candyman. And it is a kind of a very demented version of the game Candyland. And instead of when you draw, normally in Candyland you might draw a double red and you'd go for 2 red. Well, in Run for Your Life Candyman, you might have a double gumdrop and you go for two gumdrops. Well, but you don't just advance on the board. While you're advancing on the board, as you pass over other players, you're attacking them. And you turn over cards to determine how much damage you do to your fellow players. And there are certain places on the board that are called candy cage matches, which you can draw one another into, in which you're just repeatedly wailing back and forth on one another. In Candyland, the goal, of course, would be to get to the end of the board first.
Yeah.
But if you play Run for Your Life Candyman the right way, the goal really isn't to get to the end of the board. It's to be the last person to stay, the last cookie to stay alive. So this is shirt. My daughter, this is one of the characters, and my son is left-handed, Carter, and so he played Lefty, And so we're going back this year for the Run for Your Life Candyman extravaganza on Saturday evening. It starts about 11 o'clock. All the tickets were sold out, but if you're interested, I would say this is one of the biggest blasts you will have at Gen Con, because it's just a bunch of people getting together, and usually every year at this event they actually have real gingerbread cookies that are your characters that you eat as the game goes along, as you lose body parts. And it's just a ton of silly fun, and a lot of people yelling about taking off the heads of their enemies. And I think there were some complaints from nearby gaming groups on Saturday evening last year about the level of the noise that was generated. But
the enthusiasm.
The enthusiasm.
Yes.
But it's a ton of fun, and if you're looking for something on late Saturday evening, 11 o'clock Saturday night on Gen Con, stop by. I think it's Hall A. It's right around there if it's not. Their tickets are listed as all sold out, but as Tom said earlier, bring a couple of generics, and you never know when somebody doesn't show up or they decide to expand to an extra table or something. But shout out to my daughter for making the cool T-shirts last year.
Yeah.
And we're going back. Smirk and Dagger Games. If I could, plug a company, I think their products are just a ton of silly fun.
Smirk and Dagger has a lot of a place in our heart as well, because Smirk and Dagger's first game was a dungeon dwelling card game.
Oh yes.
What was it?
Cutthroat Cavern.
Cutthroat Cavern. We played Cutthroat Cavern with our kids, and we got to the point where we all saved our critical misses for my son Newt. And every time we would play that game, he would get up and he would rage quit, and he would say, "Critical miss, critical miss, critical miss. That's all I ever get is critical miss." And so it became a big joke for us to play that game and just hit Newt with the critical misses. And so that was a really fun game. I've played Nevermore. I really like Nevermore. We played that game. So yeah, Smirk and Dagger, a good company. Not a big company, but a company that has some really good and really fun games. Also want to mention that you brought up that large, what was it, the Tower of Terror? Was that what it was?
Tower of Madness.
Tower of Madness. If you like a game, and it's been around for a while, there's probably a life-size version of it. There's Oh No You Don't, life-size Catan. There's the robot one. Robo Rally has a life-size version. So Gen Con has a lot of life-size version games, and so if you like
King of Tokyo.
King of Tokyo, yes. Yeah. Those King of Tokyo figures are bigger than you are, and you gotta lift them up like rah. Yeah. So there's a lot of large games there. So fun, really fun stuff to do. Play your games larger than life. All right, I'm gonna get to my number one. So my number one is kind of a memorial to my friend Lilith. So I'm a big fan of Malifaux. I play it a lot with my son. I have 2 crews that I normally play. I play the Guild with Sonya Creed, and I play the Neverborn Lilith, the Mother of Monsters. And Weird killed my master. So yes, they killed my master. So Lilith is now dead. Her sister killed her and took over the Neverborn. And luckily I have Lilith's sister's model too. I'm trying to remember right off the top of my head what her name is, but I have it, so I can actually still play the crew with her sister. But they killed off my character. So Malifaux has just released for Gen Con their 3rd edition. So I'm looking forward to picking up the 3rd edition rules. I'm going to pick up the card pack for my Neverborn faction, which has all the cards for all of the 3rd edition cards for all my figures except for Lilith, because she's dead now. And I
detect a little bit of animosity.
I'm a little sad. And then I'm also going to be picking up the Guild pack, which is for all my figures in the Guild. And then I'm also going to pick up the Dead Man's Hand pack, which has all the cards for the dead figures. So they actually put out a card pack for all the figures that were killed off last year, so you can still play them. You can't play them in tournament play, and I don't play tournament play anyway, I just play with my friends. So I will still be able to play Lilith but I will have to buy an extra pack to get Lilith's card because she has now been usurped by her sister. So anyway, I love Malifaux. I've played it for years and years. A good friend of mine, Justin, got me into it, and I've been playing it ever since he introduced me to it. Like I said, I've played a little bit of the role-playing game, Through the Breach, all set in the same, universe or world. I guess it's our universe. It's actually Earth, but it's Earth after they found a breach into a alternate Earth. That you can go through the breach and go into the alternate Earth or be in the regular Earth. It's just a weird thing. But I love Malifaux, and I love going to Weird's booth. I really enjoy that. And so this year I'm very excited about 3rd edition and seeing what they've changed and looking at the new rule books and, just kind of overall, checking out what's new with Malifaux and what can be played. And so, maybe I'll even take Lilith in my pocket so she can get revenge on the people at the Weird booth.
How dare you!
Yeah, she wants to speak to you. But anyway, so that is my number one, 3rd edition Malifaux at the Weird booth. So we hope you guys enjoyed this video. We had a lot of fun making it, I think. If you can, go to GenCon. I mean, it is so fun. I think all the 4-day passes are probably sold out by now, but you can get a 1-day pass, and you can do a lot in 1 day. You don't have to stay on campus. Neither of us are staying on campus. We're just coming in for the day and then going back out. I stayed on campus one time. I actually stayed in a hotel, and to be quite honest with you, I think it exhausted me. So I think that actually going and getting away from it for a little while and kind of recharging and letting your brain settle down, because when you're there, like, there's so much going on, it's all the excitement and everything, and it's kind of hard for your brain to settle down when you're there. But if you get away for an hour or two, have some lunch, go to someplace cool to eat, and there's all kinds of
and I would highly recommend that if you're to new con goers and also to existing con goers, take a break for dinner. Go away from the convention center for a little bit. There's wonderful restaurants there in downtown Indianapolis and nearby.
Oh, there's tons of them, and within walking distance, there's breweries. There's an actual beer for the con. I don't remember what it's called. So if you are a drinker, you can get the beer. There's food court. I think it's not really a food court. It's a food truck area.
There's a ton of food trucks.
Bunch of food trucks there. You can go there. There's at night. There's music out in the plaza that you can go see. So the thing is, if you have a spouse that's not into gaming, there's a mall right next to the convention center.
Circle Center Mall.
Yep. Right. You go to Gen Con, play a bunch of games, send your wife over to the mall so she can shop. Everybody's happy and everybody has a good time. So it's actually really good for everybody. So I highly recommend Gen Con. I love going to Gen Con. I missed it last year and I really regretted it. I mean, I thought about it every day. And so we hope that if you guys decide to go to Gen Con, we hope that for sure if you see us, please say hi. And we'd love to talk to you and say hi to you guys. And if you got a game, we love to play games, so we'll play a game with you. And in general, we're just glad to see the people that we talk to on these videos, because it's kind of a one-way street, right? So we really enjoyed doing this video for you. We hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm Tom Sidener.
I'm Kirk Yenerall.
And we hope that you guys have a great time if you go to Gen Con. And if not, until we see you guys again, happy gaming.